was a day like any other on Earth. People were going about their lives, working, studying, eating meals, and enjoying time with family. The sun shone brightly in some parts of the world, while rain clouds gathered over others. Everything seemed normal until, without warning, something extraordinary happened that no one could explain. At first it started as a faint hum, a low-pitched vibration that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Birds stopped chirping, dogs began barking nervously, and even humans felt an uneasy sensation crawling up their spines. In cities, people paused mid-conversation, glancing around for the source of the strange sound. In rural areas, farmers looked up from their fields, puzzled by the eerie quiet that had fallen over nature. No one knew what was happening, but everyone sensed it was something big. Then the sky changed. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, cracks began forming across the heavens. At first, they looked like streaks of light, similar to lightning but far more deliberate. These lines widened, spreading out like fractures in glass. Soon, entire sections of the blue expanse above started splitting apart, revealing darkness beyond. It wasn't night. It was something else entirely. People stared upward, their mouths agape, unable to believe their eyes. The atmosphere itself appeared to be tearing open, exposing what lay hidden behind it. And then, through those jagged openings, in the sky massive shapes emerged. They loomed large, casting shadows over vast stretches of land below. Each shape was enormous, a city-sized vessel bristling with weapons, glowing with pulsating lights, and radiating power so intense it made the air shimmer. These weren't just spaceships. They were star destroyers. Anyone familiar with science fiction would recognize them instantly. Sleek yet menacing, these ships seemed designed not just for travel, but for domination. Their surfaces gleamed metallically under the sunlight, reflecting, sharp angles and intricate patterns etched into their hulls. Towering cannons jutted out from their sides, ready to unleash destruction if needed. Smaller craft zipped around them like bees guarding a hive, patrolling the area with precision. As word spread, panic erupted worldwide. Social media exploded with videos and photos of the phenomenon, each captioned with questions no one could answer. What are these? Who sent them? Are we being invaded? News channels scrambled to cover the event, interrupting regular programming to broadcast live footage. Experts were called in to speculate, though none had definitive answers. Some suggested it might be a government experiment gone wrong, while others theorized it was evidence of extraterrestrial life finally making contact. Conspiracy theories ran rampant, fueled by fear and uncertainty. But amidst the chaos, there was another emotion bubbling beneath the surface: awe. Despite the terror gripping many hearts, countless individuals couldn't help but marvel at the sheer scale and beauty of what they were witnessing. For centuries, humanity had dreamed of meeting beings from other worlds, imagining scenarios ranging from peaceful exchanges to apocalyptic battles. Now here it was, the moment humanity had long awaited. Whether it ended in harmony or devastation remained to be seen, but the fact that such a spectacle was unfolding before their very eyes left people speechless. Governments reacted swiftly, activating emergency protocols and deploying military forces to monitor the situation. Fighter jets took to the skies, circling the mysterious ships cautiously. Radar systems struggled to track the vessel's movements as they defied conventional physics. Scientists worked around the clock, analyzing data and trying to decipher the technology powering these behemoths. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens huddled together, sharing theories and prayers alike. In remote villages, elders whispered stories passed down through generations, legends of celestial visitors who came bearing both gifts and curses. In bustling metropolises, crowds gathered in public squares, pointing skyward and snapping pictures with their phones. Even skeptics found themselves questioning their beliefs, forced to confront the undeniable reality unfolding above. Despite the fear and confusion, one thing became clear: humanity was united in this moment. Regardless of nationality, religion, or background, people stood shoulder to shoulder, gazing upward with a mix of dread and wonder. Strangers exchanged nervous, smiles finding solace in shared disbelief. Families clung to each other tightly, whispering words of comfort. For the first time in history, the entire planet focused on a single event, bound together by its magnitude. And yet, no one knew what would happen next. Would the ships descend further, landing on Earth's surface? Would their occupants step out, revealing themselves to the world? Or would they simply vanish back into the void from which they came, leaving humanity forever changed by the encounter? Hours ticked by, and still, the Star Destroyers remained suspended in space, silent and unmoving. There was no communication, no sign of hostility or friendliness, just an overwhelming presence that dominated the skies and minds of billions. Every second felt heavier than the last, as anticipation built to a fever pitch. Somewhere deep within, the forests of Siberia, a small escape pod detached from one of the larger ships unnoticed. Hurtling toward Earth, it crashed into a dense cluster of trees, shaking the ground violently. Inside lay a wounded alien soldier, his fate intertwined with the humans he had been sent to conquer. Little did anyone know, this solitary figure would become the key to understanding the intentions of the invaders, and perhaps even forging a fragile peace between two vastly different civilizations. For now, though, the world held its breath, waiting for whatever came next. The sky had split open, unveiling wonders and terrors beyond imagination. Humanity's story was about to change forever, and nothing would ever be the same again. The escape pod's crash echoed through the dense forest like a thunderclap, startling wildlife and sending birds scattering into the sky. The impact left a deep crater in the soft earth, surrounded by splintered trees and smoldering debris. Smoke curled upward, mingling with the mist that hung low between the towering pines. For miles around, the sound reverberated, catching the attention of nearby villagers who had been watching the Star Destroyers in the sky just moments earlier. In the small village of Eldenwood, nestled at the edge of the forest, people were already on edge. They had gathered in the town square, staring up at the massive ships hovering above Earth. When the explosion-like noise tore through the air, panic rippled through the crowd. Some thought it was an attack, a precursor to invasion. Others speculated it might be one of their own aircraft malfunctioning or even a meteor falling from the heavens. No one could have guessed what truly lay hidden within the woods. It was a group of hunters who first stumbled upon the wreckage. Armed with rifles and flashlights, they ventured cautiously toward the source of the disturbance. Their boots crunched over fallen leaves and broken branches as they approached the smoking crater. At first glance, the metallic pod looked alien, its surface scorched but unmistakably advanced, covered in strange symbols and glowing faintly despite the damage. It was unlike anything they'd ever seen before. "What in God's name is this?" whispered Tom, the leader of the hunting party, his voice trembling. He motioned for the others to stay back, raising his rifle cautiously. None of them knew whether danger lurked inside or if whatever caused the crash posed a threat to the village. As they peered closer, movement caught their eyes. Something stirred weakly within the wreckage. The hunters froze, their breaths hitching in unison. Slowly, painfully, a figure emerged from the twisted remains of the pod. It wasn't human. The creature stood, or rather staggered, on two legs, though its form was distinctly not of this world. Its skin shimmered with an iridescent sheen, shifting colors subtly under the dim light filtering through the trees. Large, almond-shaped eyes dominated its face, wide with fear and confusion. Its limbs were long and slender, ending in delicate fingers that trembled as it tried to steady itself against the side of the pod. Most alarming, however, were the wounds covering its body, burns, gashes, and bruises that suggested it had endured significant trauma during its descent. Is that one of them?" asked Sarah, one of the younger hunters, her voice barely audible. She clutched her flashlight tightly, torn between curiosity and terror. Tom didn't answer immediately. Instead, he studied the creature carefully, noting how fragile it seemed despite its otherworldly appearance. Blood, or something resembling blood, oozed from several injuries, staining the ground beneath it. Its breathing was shallow, labored, and uneven. Whatever this being was, it was clearly hurt and possibly dying. "We need to help it," said Mia, another member of the group stepping forward hesitantly. Her compassion outweighed her fear. "Look at it, it's injured. We can't just leave it here." "Are you insane?" snapped Jake, lowering his rifle slightly but keeping it aimed at the alien. "We don't know what it is or why it's here. What if it's dangerous? What if it's some kind of scout sent to prepare for an attack?" Mia turned to him, her expression firm. "And what if it's not? Look at it, Jake. Does it look like it's about to attack us? It's barely standing." The argument continued for several tense minutes, with the hunters divided between those who wanted to offer aid and those who feared the unknown. Finally, Tom made the call. "We'll take it back to the village," he decided, his tone leaving no room for debate. "But we're doing it carefully. If it tries anything, even so much as twitches wrong, we defend ourselves, understand?" Reluctantly, the group agreed. Using makeshift stretchers fashioned from tree branches and cloth, they carefully lifted the wounded alien onto the crude carrier. As they carried it back toward Eldenwood, the creature remained eerily silent, its large eyes darting nervously between its rescuers. Occasionally it let out soft guttural sounds, perhaps attempts at communication, but none of the hunters understood them. When the procession arrived at the village, word of their discovery spread quickly. Villagers poured out of their homes, gathering around the strange visitor with a mix of fascination and dread. Children peeked out from behind their parents' legs, while elders murmured prayers and warnings. Some demanded the creature be locked away or even killed outright, fearing it might bring harm to the community. Others argued that showing kindness could pave the way for understanding or even peace with the beings in the sky. Eventually, cooler heads prevailed. The alien was taken to the local clinic, a modest building staffed by Dr. Emily Carter, the village's only physician. Though she specialized in treating humans, Emily had always been curious about science fiction and the possibility of extraterrestrial life. Now faced with an actual alien patient, she felt both exhilarated and overwhelmed. "I've never seen anything like this," Emily admitted aloud as she examined the creature's injuries. With the help of her assistant, Clara, she cleaned the wounds as best she could, using sterilized tools and bandages. The alien's physiology was unlike anything they'd encountered. Its blood sparkled faintly, and its flesh seemed to regenerate slightly when touched with certain chemicals. Despite their lack of knowledge, Emily worked tirelessly, determined to save the mysterious being. Meanwhile, outside the clinic, tension simmered among the villagers. Whispers of conspiracy and betrayal filled the air. Some believed helping the alien was a mistake, while others saw it as humanity's chance to prove its worth. News of the discovery reached government officials, who dispatched agents to investigate. Within hours, helicopters arrived carrying scientists, military personnel, and journalists eager to document the historic event. Back inside the clinic, the alien stirred again, its eyes fluttering open. It scanned the room, taking in the unfamiliar surroundings, the sterile walls, the medical equipment, the concerned faces of Emily and Clara. Fear flickered across its features, and it attempted to sit up only to wince in pain. Emily placed a gentle hand on its shoulder, speaking softly even though she doubted it understood. "You're safe here," she assured it, her voice calm and reassuring. "We're trying to help you." To everyone's surprise, the alien responded, not with words, but with gestures. It raised a trembling hand to its chest, then pointed at Emily and Clara, mimicking their actions. Slowly, haltingly, it began attempting to communicate using simple movements and sounds. Over time, these interactions grew more complex, allowing the humans to piece together fragments of meaning. Through trial and error, they learned its name, Kyle. They discovered that it, or rather, he, was a soldier, part of the fleet now looming above Earth. His ship had malfunctioned during descent, forcing him to eject in the escape pod. Beyond that, details were scarce, but one thing became clear. Kale expected hostility. Everything he knew about primitive, Species like humans told him they would react with violence, not compassion. Yet here he was, alive because of their kindness. And as days turned into weeks, Kale began to realize that perhaps his people had underestimated humanity. Perhaps there was more to these inferior beings than met the eye. For now, though, the immediate focus remained on healing. While governments debated what to do with Kale and his fleet, the villagers of Eldenwood continued caring for him, proving that even in the face of uncertainty, empathy could bridge the widest gaps. Little did anyone know, Kale's presence would soon become pivotal, not just for his survival, but for the fate of both worlds. As days passed, the relationship between Kale and the villagers of Eldenwood grew stronger, though it remained fraught with challenges. Communication was still a major hurdle, but both sides were determined to bridge the gap. Every interaction became an opportunity to learn more about each other's worlds, cultures, and intentions. What started as cautious curiosity slowly evolved into something deeper, a fragile bond built on trust and mutual respect. Kale's recovery progressed, steadily under Dr. Emily Carter's care. The alien soldier's body possessed remarkable regenerative abilities, healing wounds that would have been fatal for humans. However, his mental state was another matter entirely. He carried the weight of his mission, the guilt of surviving when others hadn't, and the confusion of being treated with kindness by those he had been trained to view as inferior. At night, he often lay awake in the makeshift bed provided for him, staring at the ceiling and replaying everything that had happened since his escape pod crashed into Earth. The villagers, too, were grappling with their own emotions. Many had initially feared Kale, seeing him as a potential threat or harbinger of doom. But as they spent more time around him, their fear gave way to fascination and even affection. Children began sneaking into the clinic to catch glimpses of the Starman, as they called him, giggling whenever he mimicked their playful gestures. Adults brought food and supplies, eager to contribute to his care despite lingering doubts about whether helping him was the right decision. Even skeptics like Jake, who had once argued against aiding Kale, softened over time after witnessing his vulnerability and gratitude. One breakthrough came when Emily discovered a way to communicate more effectively with Kale. She noticed that he responded well to visual aids, drawings, symbols, and diagrams. Using pen and paper, she started illustrating basic concepts: a sun for daytime, a moon for nighttime, a stick figure standing next to a house to represent home. Kyle caught on quickly mimicking her drawings and adding details of his own. Soon they developed a rudimentary system of pictographs that allowed them to exchange simple ideas. Through these exchanges, Kale revealed snippets of information about himself and his people. He explained, through painstaking translations, that his species, known as the Velari, considered themselves superior to all other life forms in the galaxy. Their empire spanned countless star systems, conquering weaker civilizations and exploiting their resources without remorse. Earth, according to Kale, had been marked for subjugation due to its strategic location and untapped natural wealth. Humanity's primitive technology made resistance seem futile, or so the Velari believed. But Kale's perspective was changing. Each act of kindness from the villagers challenged his preconceived notions. When children offered him handmade drawings, when elderly women knitted blankets to keep him warm, and when farmers shared fresh produce from their fields, Kyle couldn't reconcile these actions with the image of humans as savage and unworthy. For the first time in his life, he questioned the morality of his people's conquests. Were they truly justified in enslaving and destroying entire species? Or had they become blinded by arrogance and power? Meanwhile, news of Kale's presence spread beyond Eldenwood, drawing international attention. Scientists, linguists, and diplomats flocked to the village, hoping to study the alien and establish formal contact with his fleet. Governments debated how to handle the situation, torn between fear of provoking the Velari and hope that Kale might serve as a diplomatic envoy. Military leaders urged caution, warning that any misstep could escalate tensions. Peace activists, on the other hand, saw an opportunity to demonstrate humanity's capacity for compassion and cooperation. Among the experts who arrived was Dr. Marcus Hale, a renowned xenolinguist tasked with deciphering Kale's language. Working alongside Emily, Marcus devised a more sophisticated method of communication using sound patterns and repetitive phrases. Over weeks of trial and error, they managed to teach Kale a handful of English words, such as thank you, friend, and earth. In return, Kyle introduced them to basic terms from his native tongue, including Valar, his homeworld, Kryn, a word meaning both sky and freedom, and Tahlis, which roughly translated to hope. These linguistic breakthroughs paved the way for deeper conversations. Kale shared stories of his upbringing in the Velari military, describing rigorous training programs designed to instill discipline and loyalty. He spoke of battles fought across distant planets, where his comrades celebrated victories with pride while ignoring the suffering of those they conquered. Yet there were also moments of doubt and rebellion within the ranks, whispers among soldiers questioning the ethics of their missions. Kyle admitted that he had always suppressed such thoughts, believing them to be signs of weakness. Now, surrounded by humans who showed him nothing but kindness, he wondered if those whispers contained truths worth listening to. For their part, the villagers and researchers learned valuable lessons from Kale as well. His explanations of Velari technology offered insights into advanced engineering principles far beyond human understanding. Concepts like quantum energy manipulation and faster-than-light travel sparked excitement among scientists who dreamed of applying this knowledge to solve Earth's most pressing problems. At the same time, Kale's descriptions of interstellar politics highlighted the dangers of unchecked ambition and greed, serving as a sobering reminder of what humanity risked becoming if it followed a similar path. Despite these advances, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Not everyone trusted Kale or believed that peace was possible. Conspiracy theories abounded, fueled by sensationalist media coverage and fear-mongering politicians. Some accused the villagers of betraying humanity by aiding an enemy combatant. Others claimed Kale was merely biding his time, gathering intelligence to relay back to his fleet. Even within Eldenwood, dissenting voices grew louder, urging caution and demanding stricter oversight of the alien. Emily found herself caught in the middle of these debates. As Kale's primary caregiver, she felt a deep sense of responsibility toward him, yet she also understood the concerns of those who doubted his intentions. Late at night, she often sat by his bedside, watching him sleep and pondering the enormity of what was unfolding. Could one wounded soldier really change the course of history? Or was she clinging to false hope, blinded by her desire to believe in the goodness of both humanity and the Velari? Kyle, too, wrestled with conflicting emotions. He admired the resilience and creativity of the humans around him, qualities his people dismissed as irrelevant. Yet he couldn't shake the feeling that he was betraying his own kind by forming bonds with their supposed enemies. Whenever he thought of returning to his fleet, guilt gnawed at him. Not because he feared punishment, but because he doubted he could ever go back to viewing Earth as just another target for conquest. Amidst all this uncertainty, one event stood out as a turning point: the village feast held in Kale's honor. It was Emily's idea, born from a desire to celebrate the progress they had made together and to remind everyone of the importance of unity. The entire community pitched in, preparing dishes ranging from hearty stews to delicate pastries. Tables were set up in the town square, adorned with flowers and candles. Music played softly in the background as villagers gathered to share food, laughter, and stories. When Kale appeared, supported by Emily and Clara, the crowd erupted into applause. Though hesitant at first, he soon joined in the festivities, marveling at the warmth and generosity of the people around him. Someone handed him a plate of roasted vegetables, which he sampled cautiously before smiling, a gesture universally understood. Another villager taught him how to dance, leading to fits of laughter as Kale stumbled awkwardly but gamely tried again. By the end of the evening, barriers seemed to melt away, replaced by a shared sense of connection. That night, as fireworks lit up the sky in celebration, Kale realized something profound. Perhaps the key to bridging the gap between humans and Valari wasn't strength or strategy, but empathy, the ability to see past differences and recognize common humanity. And though the road ahead remained uncertain, he vowed to do whatever it took to ensure that the lessons he had learned in Eldenwood wouldn't be forgotten. Little did anyone know, Kale's transformation was only beginning. Back in orbit, cracks were forming within the Valari fleet, threatening to unravel their plans for Earth. As chaos brewed among the stars, Kyle found himself facing a choice that would define not only his destiny, but the future of two worlds. As Kale's bond with the villagers deepened, tensions in orbit reached a boiling point. The Valari fleet, stranded above Earth due to the mysterious malfunction caused by the planet's unique magnetic field, was beginning to fracture under pressure. Commanders argued over whether to launch an immediate assault on Earth or wait for repairs before proceeding. Some believed that attacking now would demonstrate their dominance and crush any resistance quickly. Others feared retaliation from humanity, or worse, failure, if their systems remained compromised. The divisions grew wider as days turned into weeks. Without proper coordination, smaller factions within the fleet began acting independently, leading to skirmishes among their own ranks. Ships exchanged hostile signals, and energy blasts narrowly missed targets during training exercises gone awry. Morale plummeted as soldiers questioned their leaders' competence and the wisdom of invading a planet they knew little about. Rumors spread through the fleet, some claiming Earth's atmosphere harbored hidden dangers, others speculating that the humans might possess secret weapons capable of destroying them. Back on Earth, Kale sensed the growing instability among his people. Though still unable to communicate directly with the fleet, he pieced together fragments of information based on patterns in their movements and faint transmissions picked up by human satellites. His heart sank as he realized the situation was spiraling out of control. If the fleet launched an attack without resolving the malfunctions, it could spell disaster, not just for humanity, but for the Valari as well. Kale confided in Emily one evening, using the limited English vocabulary he had learned. "My people, not ready," he said haltingly, his large eyes filled with worry. "They fight each other. They hurt themselves." Emily listened intently, her brow furrowed in concern. She understood enough to grasp the gravity of the situation. If the Valari attacked prematurely, countless lives would be lost on both sides. But if they abandoned their mission altogether, it might leave Earth vulnerable to future threats. There had to be another way, a solution that didn't involve bloodshed. That night, Emily called an emergency meeting with the researchers, government officials, and village elders who had been working closely with Kyle. Together, they brainstormed ideas, weighing every possible option. Dr. Marcus Hale suggested leveraging Kale's knowledge of Valari technology to repair the fleet's systems remotely, ensuring they wouldn't pose an immediate threat. Military advisors countered that this approach carried risks, as it could give the Valari access to Earth's defenses. Villagers like Tom and Mia argued passionately for diplomacy, urging everyone to focus on building trust rather than preparing for war. After hours of debate, Kale finally spoke up. Using gestures, drawings, and the few words he knew, he proposed a bold plan, an alliance between humans and Valari. He explained that Earth's resources, its minerals, energy sources, and innovative thinking could help fix the fleet's malfunctions. In return, the Valari could share their advanced technology with humanity, benefiting both civilizations. Most importantly, such cooperation could prevent unnecessary conflict and pave the way for peaceful coexistence. The idea was met with skepticism at first. How could humanity trust a race bent on conquest? And how could Kale convince his commanders to abandon their original mission? Despite these doubts, there was no denying the logic behind the proposal. With the fleet crippled and internal strife threatening to tear it apart, the Valari needed Earth's help more than they cared to admit. At the same time, humanity stood to gain invaluable knowledge and protection from potential enemies lurking in the galaxy. With renewed determination, the group set to work turning Kale's vision into reality. Scientists collaborated with Kale to analyze the wreckage of his escape pod, extracting data about Velari engineering principles. Engineers worked tirelessly to adapt human tools and materials to interface with alien technology. Linguists refined communication methods, teaching Kyle additional phrases while decoding fragments of his language. Every breakthrough brought them closer to establishing contact with the fleet and convincing its leaders to consider peace instead of war. Meanwhile, Kale grappled with his own fears and doubts. Reaching out to his people meant risking rejection, or worse, punishment for betraying their mission. He knew many aboard the ships would view him as a traitor, questioning why he aligned himself with humans rather than carrying out orders. Yet he also knew that staying silent wasn't an option. The longer the fleet lingered in disarray, the greater the chance of catastrophe. One fateful morning, Kyle made his decision. With the support of Emily and Marcus, he recorded a message, addressed to the Velari command. Using a combination of spoken words, symbols, and visual aids, he explained what had happened since his crash landing on Earth. He described the kindness shown to him by the villagers, the progress made in repairing his injuries, and the collaborative efforts underway to address the fleet's technical issues. He urged his comrades to reconsider their plans, emphasizing the benefits of working alongside humans rather than against them. The message was transmitted via satellite, amplified by Earth's communication networks to ensure it reached the fleet. Hours passed as everyone waited anxiously for a response. Would the Velari listen, or would they dismiss Kale's plea as weakness? Finally, a reply came. It was terse and formal, delivered in a series of encoded signals that Marcus and his team scrambled to decode. When the translation was complete, the room fell silent. The Velari acknowledged Kale's report, but demanded proof of humanity's capabilities. They insisted on seeing tangible results, specifically successful repairs to one of their damaged vessels, before considering negotiations. Though far from a guarantee of peace, the response was a step forward. For the first time, the Velari had shown willingness to engage rather than attack outright. Encouraged by this development, the team doubled down on their efforts, focusing all available resources on fixing the fleet's systems. Over the next several weeks, humans and aliens worked side by side in unprecedented ways. Teams of engineers traveled to remote locations where pieces of debris from earlier skirmishes had fallen, salvaging components to reverse engineer Velari tech. Researchers conducted experiments to stabilize the magnetic interference affecting the fleet's navigation systems. Even ordinary citizens contributed, donating supplies and volunteering their skills to support the mission. Through it all, Kale served as a bridge between the two species. He mediated discussions, translated complex concepts, and maintained open lines of communication with the fleet. His presence reminded everyone involved that peace was possible, even between former enemies. Slowly but surely, progress became visible. One by one, the massive star destroyers regained functionality. Their engines hummed back to life, their weapon systems powered down, and their glowing lights brightened once more. As the fleet stabilized, so did relations between humans and Velari. Commanders who had once dismissed Kale's warnings now listened intently to his updates, impressed by the ingenuity and perseverance displayed by Earth's inhabitants. Still, challenges remained. Not everyone aboard the fleet supported the alliance. Hardliners viewed Kale's actions as betrayal and plotted to undermine the negotiations. Back on Earth, public opinion was divided, with some celebrating the collaboration while others feared it marked the beginning of humanity's subjugation. Governments struggled to balance transparency with security, wary of sharing too much information with their extraterrestrial counterparts. Despite these obstacles, hope prevailed. On the day the final repairs were completed, Kale stood alongside Emily, Marcus, and the villagers in Eldenwood, gazing skyward as the star destroyers shifted into formation. A representative from the fleet descended to the surface, landing in a clearing near the village. Clad in ceremonial armor, the Velari envoy stepped out of the shuttle flanked by guards. Behind him followed Kale, who had volunteered to act as interpreter during the historic meeting. The negotiations lasted for hours, spanning topics ranging from resource allocation to cultural exchange programs. By the end of the day, a tentative agreement had been reached. The Velari would withdraw from Earth's orbit, leaving behind ambassadors to facilitate ongoing cooperation. In return, humanity would gain access to select technologies, along with protection from external threats in the cosmos. As the terms were finalized, Cale turned to Emily, his expression a mixture of relief and gratitude. "Thank you," he said. Simply the words clear and heartfelt. Emily smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. "We did it together," she replied. Though the road ahead promised to be long and uncertain, one thing was undeniable. An unlikely alliance had been forged, born not from fear or force, but from understanding and mutual respect. And as the Star Destroyers prepared to depart, Cale made a choice that would define his future and the legacy of the bond between two worlds. The day of the Velari fleet's departure arrived with a mixture of emotions. For weeks, humanity and the alien race had worked together to repair the massive Star Destroyers, forging an uneasy but hopeful alliance. Now, as the final preparations were made, the atmosphere was charged with both celebration and apprehension. Villagers from Eldenwood gathered in the town square, watching the skies with bated breath. Soldiers stood at attention near the landing site where the last shuttle would take off, their faces unreadable behind helmets. Scientists and diplomats exchanged nervous glances, unsure whether the fragile peace they had built would hold. Kyle, standing apart from the crowd, felt the weight of conflicting loyalties pressing down on him. His people were leaving Earth, returning to the vastness of space with their repaired ships and newfound knowledge. But Cale wasn't ready to go, not yet. Over the past months, he had grown attached to the humans who had saved his life, learned their customs, shared meals with them, and earned their trust. He couldn't bear the thought of abandoning them now, especially when tensions within the fleet remained unresolved. Deep down, he knew that staying behind might cost him dearly, perhaps even branding him a traitor in the eyes of his commanders. Yet something inside him, a spark ignited by Earth's kindness, urged him to stay. As the envoy prepared to board the shuttle, Cale stepped forward, halting the proceedings. The Velari commander turned to face him, his expression unreadable, beneath the sleek visor of his helmet. "Kyle," the commander said, his voice cold and mechanical through the translator device, "you are needed aboard the flagship. Your duty is clear." Kyle hesitated, then spoke firmly. "Commander, I must remain here. These humans, they have shown me compassion and wisdom beyond what I believed possible. If we are to honor our agreement, someone must bridge the gap between our peoples. Let me be that person." A murmur rippled through the assembled crowd. Some of the villagers gasped in surprise while others nodded approvingly. Emily, standing nearby, watched Cale with admiration, her heart swelling with pride. She had always known he was different from the rest of his kind, gentler, more thoughtful, but hearing him declare his loyalty to Earth solidified her belief in the potential for change. The commander studied Cale for a long moment, his silence heavy with unspoken judgment. Finally, he replied, "Your choice will not go unnoticed. You risk much by remaining here, but if this is your path, so be it. May your actions bring honor, or consequence, to us all." With that, the commander boarded the shuttle, signaling the others to follow. Moments later, the engines roared to life and the sleek craft ascended into the sky, joining the rest of the fleet above. As the shuttles disappeared into orbit, cheers erupted among the villagers. They clapped and hugged one another, celebrating not just the departure of the fleet but also Cale's decision to stay. Children ran up to him, tugging at his shimmering arms and chattering excitedly. Adults approached more cautiously, offering words of gratitude and support. Even skeptics like Jake shook Cale's hand, acknowledging the courage it took to defy his own kind. For Cale, the moment was overwhelming. He had spent his entire life believing in the superiority of the Velari, viewing other species as inferior and expendable. But now, surrounded by humans who had treated him with nothing but kindness, he realized how wrong he had been. Humanity's flaws, their disagreements, fears, and doubts, were matched only by their resilience, creativity, and capacity for empathy. These qualities, often dismissed as weaknesses by his people, were actually strengths that could unite worlds. Over the following weeks, Kale settled into his new role as an ambassador between Earth and the Velari. He worked closely with scientists and engineers, helping them adapt alien technology for human use. Power sources once reserved for starships were repurposed to provide clean energy to remote villages. Medical advancements derived from Velari biology began curing diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. Communication systems improved exponentially, allowing instant contact across continents and even into deep space. Each breakthrough served as proof that cooperation could achieve far more than conquest ever could. But Kale's work extended beyond science and diplomacy. He became a symbol of hope, a living testament to the idea that understanding could overcome prejudice. Schools invited him to speak about his experiences, inspiring students to dream of a future where humanity reached beyond its borders. Artists painted murals depicting Kale alongside humans, capturing the spirit of unity that had emerged from adversity. Even governments, once wary of extraterrestrial involvement, embraced the partnership, recognizing the benefits of aligning with a powerful ally rather than resisting one. Yet not everything was smooth sailing. Back in the Velari Empire, news of Kale's defection sparked outrage among hardline factions. Rumors spread of plots to retrieve him or eliminate him entirely, as punishment for his perceived betrayal. Spies lurked in the shadows, monitoring Earth's progress and reporting back to dissidents within the fleet. Kyle received encrypted messages warning him of danger, urging him to return home before it was too late. But he refused to leave. Instead, he doubled down on his efforts to strengthen ties between the two civilizations, knowing that any sign of weakness could jeopardize everything they had achieved. Emily remained by Kale's side throughout these challenges, offering guidance and support whenever he doubted himself. Together, they navigated the complexities of interspecies relations, balancing optimism with caution. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day, transcending language, barriers, and cultural differences. Though neither voiced it openly, there was an unspoken understanding between them, that they were fighting for something greater than themselves. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden hues over the forest, Kale and Emily sat together on a hill overlooking Eldenwood. The village bustled with activity below, illuminated by lights powered by Velari technology. Stars twinkled above, some belonging to distant galaxies explored by Kale's people, others marking constellations familiar to humanity. "Do you miss it?" Emily asked softly, breaking the comfortable silence. "Your home, I mean." Kale gazed upward, his luminous eyes reflecting the night sky. "Sometimes," he admitted, "but my true home is wherever I am accepted, not because of power or fear, but because of who I am. Here, among your people, I have found that acceptance." Emily smiled, feeling a lump rise in her throat. "And we've found hope because of you. You've changed us, Kale. All of us." They sat quietly for a while longer, letting the enormity of their journey sink in. From the moment the sky split open to reveal the star destroyers, humanity's fate had hung precariously in the balance. Fear and uncertainty had nearly torn them apart, but acts of kindness and courage had brought them together instead. Through Kale's sacrifice and determination, two vastly different civilizations had forged a connection that promised to endure, even in the face of future challenges. In the days and months that followed, stories of Kale's bravery spread across the globe. Books were written, documentaries filmed, and monuments erected to commemorate the event that changed history forever. The phrase Eldenwood Accord entered common parlance, symbolizing the triumph of cooperation over conflict. And though the galaxy remained vast and unpredictable, Earth now stood poised to step onto the cosmic stage, guided by lessons learned from a wounded soldier who dared to believe in a better future. As Kale looked toward the stars, he felt a sense of purpose he had never known before. He was no longer just a soldier or a defector. He was a pioneer, paving the way for generations to come. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing for certain. Redemption was possible, not just for individuals, but for entire worlds. And in that realization, he found peace.